Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us. TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us. People make the world go
Good morning, Sinkers and Nevis, and welcome to Inside the News right here on WinFM 98.9. It is Saturday, January 7th, 2023. I'm your host for today's program, Devon Cornelius. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. It is indeed a beautiful Saturday morning here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and it is a pleasure to be here with you, the good listeners of WinFM 98.9. This is Inside the News. I'm going to play for you this morning, for those of you who may not have, who may have missed it. I'm going to play for you this morning an interview with the former Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris. He was being interviewed by colleague Jamiela McPhail of Freedom FM. All right, coming up now, an interview with the former Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, and Jamiela McPhail of Freedom FM.
Good morning, Madam McPhail. I am happy to have the opportunity to speak with you. I am well at this time.
Now, you are the immediate former Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and since the August 5th elections, we have been hearing from the current St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party a lot of allegations in terms of your leadership. To be frank, there have been allegations in terms of corruption within the Team Unity administration. Now, one of the talking points that we've heard a lot about during your administration and since is the Citizenship by Investment Program. The Citizenship by Investment Program was started in St. Kitts and Nevis. It has been a major revenue earner for the Federation. We have also heard talk about its ending shortly because of the quote-unquote race to the bottom. There is a perception that under the Team Unity administration, the government had been engaging in underselling citizenships. What would you say to that?
I would say the whole story is a lie, and it's typical of the dishonest leadership that we now have in the country. It is easy for one to make an allegation and more difficult to prove. And you would have thought with over 3 months, 4 months have passed, August, September, October, November, December, the government would at least be able to bring one scintilla of evidence to the fore. And there is none, because there is none to be found. It is important to recognize that our CBI program, for example, is the platinum brand in the world, in the region, the most sought after. Any program that has been abused would not have that kind of demand and that kind of interest. It is important to bear in mind that when we took over, when I became Prime Minister in 2015, the CBI had its reputation damaged. Two of our most important partners in the hemisphere, the United States of America, the most powerful country in the world, and Canada, the second most important one in the Americas, had in fact already distanced themselves and sanctioned us because they felt that our CBI program was indeed abused. It had become the preference for persons who wanted to avoid international criminal agencies, etc. The evidence of that is real, and I draw your attention to what was issued in May, the 28th of May, 2014, by the United States Treasury Department, the department that deals with financial crime. And that advisory, PIN 2014-8004, is easily available just by Googling. And what is the subject? The abuse of the Citizenship by Investment Program, sponsored by the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Perhaps 1, 3, and 4, very helpful for the analysis. This is the evidence that have come from an independent and credible source about what the CBI program was. From 2015 to 2022, thank God, we have never had one complaint from the U.S. Treasury Department regarding our CBI program, because we pledged and we succeeded in reforming the program, clear it of all the abuses of the past. Linked to that abuse was the issuance of over 15,000 passports by the administration before us without the country of birth seal. And that created an alarm in the international community, because it was seen as an effort by the government to hide the true identity of those persons it was drawing to our CBI program. And the FinCEN advisory speaks to that in detailed way, and I will advise for the interest of your listenership. In fact, it says in the ultimate paragraph, FinCEN notes that this advisory, which they were warning international financial institutions to be aware of our program back then, that is intended to highlight the illicit finance risks posed by St. Kitts Nevis Citizenship by Investment Program. I think this is important, and this gives to light as to what was and what is. We have re-established confident relationship between the United States and Canada regarding our program, the EU, and we have hardly had anything of which we have not been able to deal with, but certainly we have no advisory. We must recall we lost our visa-free access to Canada in November 2014, a similar indictment. So when they now say that the program is being abused, we know that is political red herring, and the reality is far different. And in any event, too, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And what we do know, the very program that they have bashed this year will be bringing in the largest inflows of resources into the country, some $600+ million. That is remarkable. No abuse program could have sustained that level of input into the country. And so we are number one because of the reforms we did to the program, the credibility of our due diligence, the partnership with which we work with the United States, the EU, and all other international agencies, the multi-layered vetting system, the internal overhaul of our program through an international risk management firm, IPSA, and the recruitment of a CEO which comes with a background of experience in risk management. They have all helped to make our program number one, the platinum brand, number one in the efficiency of our due diligence, number one in terms of innovation, number one in terms of responsiveness. And that's really the evidence.
Dr. Harris, I want to pedal back a bit as it relates to the underselling of the passports, the underselling of citizenship. Now, there is a perception that the government had actually been complicit in the selling of citizenships under the minimum requirement as laid out in legislation.
And that is really a falsehood. The government itself is not a party to any sale. The government doesn't sell the CBI product. The government promotes it. Buyers basically engage in buying either the property in response to the real estate auction. And so you would go to Sayadi and Daniel, or you would go to a Scott Gaines, or you would go to anyone, or the agents who are involved in that. The government has a price. No documents can come to the CBI unit, as far as I'm aware, and our research have indicated, that indicate that people are selling beyond the legal price.
So you are saying that while you were Prime Minister, you did not receive any information to prove that?
We have no evidence to basically prove that. What we do know, the government fees that are being predicated on the sale of the CBI products at a particular price have not changed. So if somebody were to go beyond or lower than what the government said, that information is not provided to us. And that person cannot come to the government and say, I sell for less, so I will pay less for my fees. In this market, as in other markets for products, you hear allegations, but they must be substantiated. And where they have been, anything published that indicates that an agent working on behalf of a developer or anyone had done so, we have in fact intervened, and we have in fact suspended a number of agents where there have been any evidence. The government is not a seller in the way we go on and say, we are selling you for that. What the government does is uphold the regulations, that whatever you do, these are the prices for our CBI program offerings, and once you comply with that, you show evidence. That is what the government goes by. There are persons as part of the competitive environment who will setting one developer against another, one agent against another. But that has not been something that the government has either encouraged, facilitated, and where any scintilla of evidence has been provided. For example, somebody could say, well, this was basically promoted on such and such a date, and we find that we call the agents responsible to be held account. We remove them because they have to be approved agents. So that is not something in any way which the government would be a party to or has been a party to.
Dr. Harris, I want to segue into the construction of the new prison. We know that that construction has been shrouded in controversy. We saw two members of your administration in the persons of the former Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Sharon Richards, and Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Bradley, coming out and really laying some allegations against you in regard to the construction of this prison. Had alleged at that time during the campaign that the prison had been approved to sell the 5,000 passports at the cost of US $175,000 per passport, and that equals to 875 million US dollars for a prison that was expected to cost way less. Now, what is your response to these allegations?
Again, these are allegations that anyone really takes seriously. What is the
But,
No.
it was
What?
taken seriously because this was a major talking point during the
But
campaign.
it was a major talking point. But the person who is serious would have asked, where is the evidence of corruption? The prison project came to the cabinet more than once. Every member present at the cabinet supported the project. The project, far from requiring any significant outflow from the government, provided an opportunity that is provided by law to the alternative investment option for the government to get those things that it considered important part of the socio-economic agenda done to this particular approach to raising financing. So in the case of the prison was being built and is being built by a developer. It is not that the government is taking up its money to go and build the prison. The government spent money to get a design done by Stace Hobson and Associates, etc. Cost us millions of dollars. We then submitted that once we found a developer that had interest in it. And we said, listen, this is something of importance to us. And can you go to the marketplace, raise the financing needed to give us a modern prison? We are aware that 1840 had basically outlived its usefulness. Government was coming under pressure that it was not in keeping with a view of the human rights of the persons who were incarcerated, that it should be in these overcrowded facilities. And beyond that, we had our own view about rehabilitation, and we therefore need to ensure that the prison population could be rehabilitated, and so they can become better citizens and residents of our country. In that particular option, and for that particular prison, the current Prime Minister has signed thousands, I repeat, thousands of citizenship to facilitate that. So if it was so bad, if it was so corrupt, if it was so illegal, and they have evidence, how could he justify? And you have him on record saying that the program will continue, but you cannot benefit from illegal proceeds. So if the proceeds of that operation, which is costing up to hundreds of millions of dollars, coming into the country rather than going out, we are projected to get over $600 million. What is the largest product we have in the market? The alternative investment option to with the prison program. And the government that condemn it, all of that they are continuing. Almost every day he signs, the CORs as we call them, conscious then that there is nothing wrong. It was a political gimmick, unfortunately, believed by some. But he had no credibility. Had no credibility from start. And the proof of it is that they have now, having studied it, agreed that it will continue. So if it is wrong, why are they continuing something that is wrong? What have they done about it? Signed between August and now over 3,000 persons to become citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis under that program.
Dr.
So,
Harris, not to cut you off, but questions have also been raised about the legality of the alternate investment option. It has been suggested that when Cabinet approved that option, there was no mechanism under the law to allow for that to happen. And in fact, in May, an SRNO was issued and it was backdated. What are your views on that?
well, again, I am no lawyer, government was advised on the particular approach. The
Uh-huh.
cabinet has a number of lawyers. There was no objection to this particular program. In fact, again, I think you have, where at one point, Jonel Powell sought to explain what the alternative investment project was about. There's nothing wrong with it. And again, it goes back. If it is wrong, why are you continuing it? You can appropriate and reprobate. Why are you continuing something that of you has a certain view? Because anyone can make an allegation, however reckless it is, especially in the civil season. The season has now ended. The government has had the benefit of the in-house opinion, which our Attorney General would have relied upon in bringing certain proposals to the cabinet. And we, basically, he's our chief advisor. But if it's so fundamentally wrong, you must ask yourself, well, how they are continuing with an illegality. Does it make sense to reasonable people? Doesn't. That is not to say there may not be things that basically one may have an alternative view on. Almost every proposal, you could find somebody suggest, well, maybe we can do this at this time, or at a later date. But the program is being continued. Same way, that's not the only project we approve under it. We have a housing project in the Keon area that had been approved by Dean Daniel. Different in nature, yes, but it was under the Alternative Investment Program where we felt that people who were not necessarily interested in the level of housing provided by NHC, for example, they want higher-end homes, that they could be able to get houses as affordable homes through a similar program. Has that been wrong too? So again, people are cherry-picking what suits them. And I've said we now have time. We have 100+ days. We have had legislation gone to the parliament. If this was so critical and so important, why has no legislation come in relation to this particular matter? And why have the project continued? You have heard it, and these are the hard questions, because the two don't add up. It was so bad. It was so corrupt. You have not a scintilla of evidence of any corrupt activity being provided. You have the government determining that it was in the national interest to continue the program. So they claim, and they have continued it. Nothing has changed.
Okay, Dr. Harris, I want to touch on PAP. We know that new administration is talking about reforming that program, the poverty alleviation program, that is. And we heard from the now Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, who really indicated that there was a need for the program to be reformed. We have heard that they are amending the PAP program. He also spoke to, irregularities within the program. He mentioned a number of civil servants whose salary was above the $3,000 mark, but they were beneficiaries of the program. He also spoke to duplicate names on the program. What are your thoughts on the reformation of that program?
The PAC was never a perfect program, and no program is. Because in the elections, we said two things very clearly. We were going to increase the staff provided on the PAC from $500 to $1,000 a month. And secondly, we will reform it. PAC was a program, work in progress, that the government always envisaged over time we would have to relook and analyze. What did we need a PAC? We had said in the campaign of 2015 that the minimum wage was not a livable one, and that we needed to intervene to ensure that people could live with dignity on their income. And we were aware, like most countries in the Caribbean, poverty is an important part of our reality. And the surveys that had been done had indicated that in 2014, around the year 2011, during that period, that you had significant levels of poverty and indigence in the context of St. Kitts in particular. So we came up with a program that if a person, it was predicated on the assumption that a household needed at a minimum around $3,000 to be able to live reasonably at that particular period of time. We went through a process, public registration of persons, etc., and we started perhaps with about 4,000 persons. By 2020, and you have to give the program a little while to capture how it is working, make the necessary adjustment, and we had intended to do so. The program was devised by the technicians within the Ministry of Social Development and Sustainable Development at the particular moment in time. And so by 2020, we basically had got into the COVID-19 pandemic. And it wasn't appropriate for us at that time to do any significant adjustment to the PAP program. So the PAP program would have continued as it was contemplated. With the COVID, we knew that thousands of persons, particularly in the tourism sector, had lost their jobs over a prolonged period of time, and therefore more persons were exposed. Indeed, in our budget up to 2021, we made explicit provision, and again for the budget for 2022, that we will have increased number of persons needing to go on the PAP program. In terms of the irregularities that I mentioned, these are things that are easily could be cured once they are found. As I said, it is not that the program will ever be without blemish, as any program of that nature. But is it so significant and widespread? And the answer is no. They take, for example, that they will duplicate names. Well, if they are duplicate names, how many persons are being duplicated? They haven't given you a figure because they are not about a search for truth. We hear that they perhaps had somewhere between 300 persons, civil servants who were over the threshold, who were part of it, and the response is that if you find things that are not in keeping with the proposal and the policy, you make the correction. You make the correction. That is what we do in all the programs. There is no need to say, well, listen, this program has to be stopped and everybody on this program are going to be tarnished. If you have a mechanism for identifying the breach in the control, you deal with those particular persons. No evidence, because that has not come to me regarding duplication of names. They must say how many persons. They must say how many civil servants. I think it's some figure in a few hundred. But if you have a program with 7,000 people, as they have alleged, no evidence, but that is the figure they have, and you have 300 people, what percentage of that becomes of concern? Because there will always be people who will attempt to basically succeed. And we hope that that will always be a small number. But are you going to disrupt something that is good, or you will make the necessary reforms? And that is why we had indicated in the campaign, we will, before the step, we were going to enhance it, and we were going to tighten some of the criteria regarding who would qualify for the pass. You have to recognize, and I heard these foolish talk about, well, a number of family members. People have multiple families. And the truth is, the program always envisages that, because that is the nature of society. You could have James Brown, who qualifies as a household. He's the brother of Thomas Mason, for example. And that person also qualifies. That is no problem for the program, because the program says that the critical criteria is that the household income must not be more than $3,000. So anybody whose income at the base of it is less than $3,000 would qualify, just on the basis of evidence. And so some of the noise that is being made about the program to me is just raw politics. And that is why they must come with the full picture. Tell us how many civil servants, tell us how many duplicates. And we wonder, well, what is this noise about? Because if you know the persons who are on, who should be on, you deal with them. And you signal that. But the PAP is not something personal to anybody or any government. The fact that it's being continued indicates that it was a program well needed. Well needed. But it is not perfect, and it will never be perfect, because even as they are criticizing it, they have found other people in similar circumstance who satisfy their political preferences, and they have ensured that those persons become beneficiaries. So we are hearing a lot of noise, as if we are still in the silly season. What we need to get is hard evidence on which we can make sound decisions as a people so that we could move forward. We never profess that any of the programs that government has, that they are perfect. But what we do know, that there should be controls in place everywhere to minimize abuses. And so that is the response to the PAC. Well, while we are arguing about a man of poor family getting $500, we hear that the government is willing to forgive $130 million over at the Southeast Peninsula. That is a lot of money. The PAC program with all the 7,000 people would never come to that. Never come to that. So we are not going to justify any irregularity. We say in the normal function of a government or any entity, if there are irregularities, then you deal with them. PAC was a program to help the poor, to give them a better quality of life. The COVID-19 came, denied many people a chance to earn a living. Government, as part of the response, recognized that more persons then had to be supported, and the PAC was one mechanism, and the income support was another mechanism. And people have enough data, they have the policy prescriptions in relation to PAC to stop making unnecessary noise, loud noise, as if something so egregious had happened. The people getting some kind of money from PAC. How many people? And does it warrant the program to be stopped and have over 10,000 people come now and we register? Or there can be some more efficient way in which any irregularity, if they are found, can be dealt with, and the program continues to do the good that it can do for the grandmother at home who had nothing to rely upon except for PAC, for the single mother-headed household who was relying on the PAC to help her with her children. That is where we are. So we are coming out of a very difficult period of COVID, one of the worst pandemics in the last 100 years. And the government responded with compassion to that particular reality. The government itself has not turned a blind eye to any irregularity and will never. Because that's not what it was intended to do. But you have to review it. And even as you are reviewing it, you have to say, well, if 2018, when PAC started, the livable wage was $3,000. Could $3,000 in 2022 satisfy their livable wage with all the movement in the cost of living? And then when you hear that somebody was getting $3,018, and you say, but is that something we are going to make a noise just over the threshold? Or you look at the particular circumstances that may require that, given whether the size of the family, given the fact that there is somebody there with disabilities, it would be a hard application deny that person. And what we needed to do as a policy was to basically increase the threshold. That has to be considered now, because what $3,000 could have done per month in 2018 is certainly will take a lot more to be able to do those things. And these are realities that we have to look at, not on the biased, one-sided, partisan, political action which the government seems to be obsessed about. We want a real policy. We need a proper overhaul of the program, the criteria, the adequacy of the thresholds that have been established years ago. Every day people are crying out for the cost of every food item, every educational input. So are we going to be locked into the $3,000 threshold? That is a matter for intelligent people to think through and to work out. But we will make no apologies for doing the very best we can to assist the ordinary people who are having difficulties of which we were aware. And we intervened with a meager amount of $500 to take them up to a livable wage. And we are happy that thousands of people were able to benefit and to do better with their lives, support their education and the orderly development of their children, the poor who were helped, the elderly, and all those people. We are happy for them, and we would want the program to continue. And we have no objection to the program being reformed, because in the campaign we did say that. That was part of it. We know that once we had exited the pandemic, we will have to look at that program and look at all other programs. We introduced, for example, a fuel subsidy as part of the response for the COVID-19. That is something that, as we move out the shadows of COVID-19, any reasonable government will have to revisit. It just so happened that in the context of the cost of living, the fuel subsidy is something that needs to be increased. Otherwise, the busmen will be justified in going, taking action, because their businesses will not be profitable. But that has to be done in a managed way, and recognizing that in the society, and everywhere the advice has been, you can't withdraw your COVID-19 support too quickly until you're out of it, or reasonably sure that you have extricated yourself from the pandemic, or else you are going to have a deeper scar from having done that, scarring people's lives, scarring the economy. But for me, most importantly, is what you do to people, their lives, their dignity. Positively, and that was a response, a compassionate response, a response, and how our government responded to ensuring that all of our people, you look at the proper locations, whether you're in Basti, St. Paul, Sandy Point, Old Road, it doesn't matter, regardless of geography. You saw that persons were part of this program of assistance. The government I headed looked after everyone the best way we could at a particular moment in time.
Dr. Harris, in Parliament this past week, we heard from the current Attorney General of St. Kitts and Nevis, who said that your administration had been issuing contracts to your friends and family members bypassing the mandatory legislative procurement process. Open Interactive, Inc., an IT company, was used as an example of those practices. What are your comments?
I think it's a very unfortunate statement made by the AG and the government, and it is also unfortunate that the AG or anyone should seek to cherry pick persons. They must then go through all the contracts, if they want to name, and I suppose shame anybody. Go through all, let us have a frank discussion of what happened, again, the realities are quite different than the ones that they wish to make out. And I'm not going to get in at this time to defend any particular contract which they bring, unless they want to have a fair discussion. You can't choose, because the government in the course of its life would have given many, many contracts. So how come only one they could bring to the fore and tarnish the good name of an individual and his particular entity? And the politics of it is real clear. When the particular entity was offered the contract, came with recommendations, it went through the appropriate processes that were available at the moment in time. And it was in fact went through not only technical scrutiny, but legal scrutiny. At the particular moment, the Attorney General had responsibility for ICT. So I'm not going to dwell in that, because I think it's unfair and unhelpful to pick one person. If you say that this was something was prevalent, then put them before the body of the public. I find it unfairly tarnishing, unjustifiably so, the good name and the good work of one of our citizens. To that, by getting into the particulars of this case. This is part of the noise. This is part of the deliberate politicking, which tells me the government is not serious about good governance. Because how could it be right and fair and justifiable that you single out one individual, alleging there are many, but you single out one person, and as it were, attempting to make them the laughing stock? I am not going to get in that game. And I think thinking people in this society, people who are concerned about good governance, would say that is not fair. And so I don't want to continue to pursue that unfairness. The Procurement Act was an act that we attempted to operationalize at some particular point in our term. But even without the Procurement Act, there were well-established mechanisms for selecting service providers, and the government followed those. The Public Works, for example, was the critical agency of the government that would have dealt with the award of contracts, especially when it comes to physical works, and it was tender. More than one person had to tender to do any particular project. The persons who had put forward the tenders have an opportunity, as far as the process goes, to hear what their competitors would have put. And so even before we know, the particular people know who is leading and who is behind, at least in terms of what they would have quoted to the Public Works, which had been a central engine. We are hearing the full truth. What we are hearing is persons with political bias and with political agenda trying to exploit the lack of knowledge of some persons regarding how government works. And again, what have they done differently? Because they have awarded contracts since they have gone there. Would they be bold enough to say whether they have followed the criteria? They have followed the rules of the procurement. We haven't heard that. We haven't heard that. So what political games they are playing, we must be careful to tell them we are not going to be part of it.
I want to congratulate you on your recent anniversary as an elected member of Parliament. Now, we know that you are a veteran in terms of the political arena in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to ask you for your thoughts on the recent elections. What do you think were the reasons why your party was not successful at the polls?
Well, I would say that I have heard analyses that have come from political pundits and persons seasoned in it. There are some, I believe, persuasive arguments being put. I think that one of the factors that mitigated against us, we had a very short window, while others were scheming about general elections and certainly had put plan in place to force a general election dissolving the unity outfit. We certainly were concerned with governance, My priority from 2000, and we had the last general election before 2022, in 2020, being battled with saving people's lives and livelihoods. That, and we succeeded at that. You look at the PAHO reports where you live here. We did better than most countries. When countries' fiscal house was so poorly outfitted that they had to go and beg and borrow to respond to the COVID-19, we were able to go to our strong buffer and take over $200 million to deal with our response to COVID and provided the most comprehensive response to get our people and our economy back to work again. So that had been my focus. And so it really was a disappointment that there were persons within who didn't have the luxury really of taking on the onerous challenge of leadership and to look at the critical state of the COVID-19 pandemic and to come up with solutions to get us there. They were involved more with party politics and attempting to see ways in which they could force an election on the country, which they succeeded in doing. And so we have that distraction within the government itself, which has proven to be unhelpful and have given us, as it were, allow us to go back to what the people rejected in 2015. So, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, what is the future? What is your projections for the future of the People's Labour Party? You know, this was the first time you contested the elections on your own with a full slate of candidates. So going forward, what can we expect?
Well, we can expect that the People's Labour Party will be alive and well again when you listen to the external unbiased views of people. It has been a very good performance. Admittedly, it's not the performance that we would like, but we was the youngest, the newest of all political parties, and we basically amassed the second largest number of votes in the country, outdoing what parties who have been in the political sphere were able to do. And so that in itself is a record. We were able across the country in a very restricted period of time to field candidates and to contest a general elections that was precipitated by those with nefarious agendas. And in the end, the outcome was not one that we would have liked. We have an opportunity to rebuild, and certainly from all the reports again from the experts or those experienced, the People's Labour Party will be a viable alternative to the government and has a strong future ahead. Of course, we cannot take anything for granted, and there is a lot of work to be done, but I'm certain that we can certainly do this. When we formed the People's Labour Party a few years back, there were a lot of doubting Thomases. And we contested at the time 2 seats. We returned one of them in our second going. That's in 2015. In 2020, as the second option, we were able to increase our seat from 1 to 2. And of course, had things been different, we would have been a party in the government. So we work with what we have now. And we have to rebuild, and we will rebuild stronger. I will lend my successful experience over the last, 29 years to assist the party, but beyond the party, to assist the country in finding real democracy and in finding a space in which we all can operate in a St. Kitts of Nevis, which we all know is our home. And some of the politics that had been played in the run-up to the 2022 elections, that those things would be minimized as we move forward. Because for some of us, all we have is St. Kitts and Nevis. And we have to build it and build it strong and make it inclusive. And I have the honor of leading perhaps the most inclusive government, a government that comprises at least 3 political parties. And therefore, we had always to be conscious of that dynamics. That is why those from Nevis could have said that they had their best arrangement ever in the history of the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why those from the other political parties found themselves in position of decision making at the levels of the government. The team unity construct has been the best construct that has come forward to the country. And we cannot gainsay the power of unity. It is this unity within the team unity which helps to precipitate the fall of the government and the best political arrangement which St. Kitts and Nevis has had. It is no accident that the 7 years of a team unity government has been the best 7 years for the country, the best 7 years for the people, receiving their direct benefit, whether you are sugar worker, whether you lost your house as a result of a hurricane, whether you are a poor mother without help and the PAP became your life support. I mean, there's so many things about which we can be proud. Look at the way we transform our infrastructure, an island main road being done, the bus terminals that we have in downtown and at the East End, Wellington Road, and so on, the way in which we were progressing. We were the envy of the rest of the region, performance at its best, and we were able to do this without being reckless. We didn't have to run to the IMF. In fact, we succeeded in paying out the IMF. We didn't have need to go for land for debt swap arrangement. In fact, we succeeded in paying over about $500 million to release the lands and put them to good use around the country so that homes could be built, so that community centers could be put down. And as I say community centers, I recall that at the Utleys Lodge area, that was land that we redeemed and put to proper use for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And other people who wanted land. So I am very satisfied about what we had been able to accomplish as a government. And yes, I regret that the people were not able to realize all the fruits, all the promises that the unity arrangement offered to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Dr. Harris, we don't get to speak to you quite often. So one of the questions that has been on the minds of many following the election is your future in politics in St. Kitts and Nevis. What can we expect? Do you intend to contest another general elections?
Well, the future is still to be determined. What I would say honestly, I'm aware that I've had perhaps one of the most successful political careers. I have started 29 years ago, did 8 federal battles in terms of general election, won every one of them, thanks to God and the loving people of Number 7, and the people of the country generally. I was able to do what perhaps no other politician had been able to do. I ran with one party. When that became unworkable for a number of us, I exited. I formed a new party, was able still to win my seat. And basically in every election, whatever the dynamics, whether I was contesting as unity against Labour, Labour against PAM as in the initial years up until 2015, or it was in this last election in a 3-way contest where I was running against Labour, running against PAM in the general election, still succeeded. Some 54% of the voters expressed their confidence in me. And the second closest to me was 36, 37%. That is a big margin. Sudan. So I feel very confident that I have had a good run, and I now channel my energies to see how could I be of service to the country, because this is a place that I have loved, this is a place that I've committed.
The brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
People make the world go
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you were just listening to an interview with former Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Timothy Harris, and Jamila McPhail of Freedom FM. It is the top of the hour, so we'll take a break for the headline news. And when we come back, we will continue inside the news right here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Thank you so much for joining the program.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown. Making the headlines, a person in custody after firearm and ammunition found following vehicle search on Nevis. BVI Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley says there will be no early elections. A Turks and Caicos police officer was charged with harboring undocumented migrants. Internationally, at least 29 people were killed during the bloody operation to arrest the son of Mexican drugs kingpin El Chapo, the Mexican authorities say. Meanwhile, in the U.S., Kevin McCarthy was elected Speaker of the House after 15 rounds of voting and making extensive concessions to a group of right-wing headliners, raising questions about the Republican Party's ability to govern. Now, the details. The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force has confirmed that an individual is in custody following a vehicle search on January 5, 2023, where a firearm was found. According to the release, law enforcement officers and soldiers from the St. Kitts and Nevis Defence Force stopped and searched a vehicle while conducting an operation in Gingerland, Nevis. The authorities reported finding and seizing a .380 pistol, the first firearm to be seized in 2023, and 9 rounds of matching ammunition. The unnamed driver of the vehicle, reports indicate that it was a young man, was taken into custody. Investigations into the matter are ongoing. Additionally, a media outlet inquired about a video posted on social media of a young woman alleging that a police officer or soldier inappropriately touched her. When the woman refused his advances, she indicated the man had then pulled his weapon on her. No update has been given since the inquiry on January 6th. Also, no charges connected to the person in custody concerning the threatening language posts on social media have been communicated as yet. More on these as information becomes available. The second term of the 2022-2023 academic year is scheduled to begin on Monday, January 9th, 2023. And the Minister of Education in the Government of St. Kitts and Nevis, the Honourable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, has assured stakeholders that school maintenance projects will be undertaken over the coming months. On Day 3 of the Budget Address, December 16th, 2022, Dr. Hanley informed that the Ministry of Education is mandated in 2023 to effectively utilize EC $111.9 million in spending to ensure that schools of the Federation are safe spaces for children and teachers.
We are going to be vigorously moving towards renovation, maintenance, and the general upkeep of schools. In 2023, our focus will be on outfitting all bathrooms in our schools to be hygienic and befitting of dignity with which we should treat our students. Focus will also be made to overhaul, Madam Speaker, the electrical infrastructure in our schools. The light should be working and electrical outlets should be adequate and in working order in all our schools. We have budgeted to seriously undertake this initiative in 2023.
The Minister of Education said he visited all schools in the Federation, both in the public and private sectors, since the opening of the academic year. Dr. Hanley acknowledged that some of the schools are not in pleasant conditions. For years, students, teachers, and parents have been complaining about the deplorable conditions of some of the schools in the country, including structural and electrical issues, as well as general furnishing of the schools.
In the minister's message and executive summary in Volume 2 of the budget estimates found on the Ministry of Finance website, Dr. Hanley said that in 2023, 3 schools will be prioritized for significant renovations: Bastyr High School, Joshua Obadiah Williams Primary School, and Irishtown Primary School. The Irishtown Primary School has been forced to close classrooms on their 3rd-story block due to structural integrity issues. Repairs to the classroom block are set to be completed in 2023, ready for the next academic year. According to Volume 2 of the budget estimates, construction of the new Bastyr High School has an estimated cost of $35 million to be funded through government revenue. Reconstruction of the Joshua Obadiah Williams Primary School has an estimated cost of $8 million. Other updates include a $1.6 million renovation of the Washington Archibald High School's bathroom, roof, and windows, a $4.6 million secondary school electrical upgrade in Phase 1, and the construction of an education building with an estimated cost of $24 million, among other projects. In regional news, BVI Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley says there will be no early elections. A Turks and Caicos police officer was charged with harboring undocumented migrants. Those reports and more from Carib Update.
President Biden's allies in the immigrant rights movement have revolted en masse on Thursday after seeing the details of his new border policy and pronouncing it a betrayal of his promises to them. The New York Immigration Coalition called the plan shameful, while the American Immigration Council labeled it a harsh Trump-style crackdown on asylum seekers. The administration committed to ending Title 42. Today's announcement triples down by expanding a dangerous anti-immigration policy the president promised to terminate, said Krish Omara Vignaraja, president of Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service. Biden announced a plan to offer would-be illegal immigrants from Haiti, Cuba, and Nicaragua a new legal path to entry through Homeland Security's parole powers, joining Venezuelans who he's already covering with his parole power. Biden said the U.S. will accept up to 30,000 people a month. That aspect won widespread applause from advocacy groups. Migrants who entered the U.S. illegally under moonlit skies and waist-deep cold water Friday were devastated to learn they may be sent back to Mexico under expanded limits on the pursuit of asylum. About 200 migrants who walked in the dark for about an hour to surrender to Border Patrol agents in Yuma, Arizona, included many Cubans who were stunned to hear that a ban on asylum that previously fell largely on other nationalities now applies just as much to them. Several were political descendants of the Cuban government who were driven to leave by long-standing fears of incarceration and persecution and a new sense of economic desperation. President Joe Biden announced Thursday that Cubans, Nicaraguans, Haitians, and Venezuelans will be expelled to Mexico if they enter the U.S. illegally, effective immediately. At the same time, he offered humanitarian parole for up to 30,000 people a month from those 4 countries if they apply online, pay for their airfare, and find a financial sponsor. A police officer in the Turks and Caicos Islands was arrested and charged with harboring undocumented migrants as authorities with a recent spike in Haitians migrating to the archipelago, officials said Thursday. Police Commissioner Trevor Bottin declined further comment but said in a statement that the officer was already on administrative leave related to another unidentified matter. Authorities said they found 4 Haitians ranging in age from 22 to 65 on the property where they arrested the officer. The Haitians were also detained. Authorities in the Turks and Caicos Islands say that law enforcement and immigration resources have been put under strain after nearly 300 Haitian migrants were intercepted in the Caribbean territories' waters. 3 overloaded boats carrying 275 men, women, and children were detained near a small self-governing British territory between 23 December and 2nd January. As of Tuesday, January 3, 184 people have been repatriated to Haiti, the immigration director Charlene Richards told The Guardian. She declined to say how many were seeking asylum. Both major parties in Antigua and Barbuda are making a big push for the expatriate vote. On Friday, the United Progressive Party, the main opposition there, unveiled what it called the One Caribbean Act. Leader of the United Progressive Party expanded on the party's previous announcement that work permit fees will be waived for all nationals of the wider CARICOM and the Dominican Republic who have been residing and working in Antigua under its so-called One Caribbean Act. At the press conference, Lovell said if the party wins the January 18 elections, it will also make it possible for people who have great-grandparents who are Antiguans to become citizens. Lovell also unveiled a path for foreign nationals who were brought to Antigua as children. On Thursday night at a ruling party campaign event, Antigua's current immigration minister Ched Green said the incumbent Antigua and Barbuda Labour Party has been the most welcoming to nationals from CARICOM and the Dominican Republic. Green spoke about the long history of the party embracing people from the wider region who have settled and worked there. Green said there is a development trust to the immigration policy. The state of Antigua and Barbuda has a large population of people from other nations in the region who are now qualified to vote there. The declarations on the immigrant issue appear to be a strong play by both parties for the support of that sector. The former president of Seychelles will lead a team of Commonwealth election observers to Antigua and Barbuda for the country's general election scheduled for January 18. Commonwealth Secretary General Patricia Scotland announced the composition of the Commonwealth Observation Group in response to an invitation from the government of Antigua and Barbuda. The group will submit its recommendation in a report to the Commonwealth Secretary General, who will forward it to the government of Antigua and Barbuda, the country's Electoral Commission, the leadership of political parties taking part in the election, and all Commonwealth governments. The group is expected to arrive in St. John on January 14. And despite speculations from many, Premier of the British Virgin Islands, Natalia Whitley, says there will be no early elections. General elections are constitutionally due by mid-May. However, some pundits have suggested that general elections might be held as early as March instead. With the House of Assembly prorogued weeks ago to end the fourth session of the Fourth House of Assembly, questions have been raised as to why the House of Assembly was not dissolved, instead to facilitate the holding of elections. But speaking at a press conference on Friday, Whitley dispelled those rumors. Whitley further explained that in the framework agreement for the implementation of the Commission of Inquiry recommendations, his government committed to completing a full 4-year term. He also confirmed that he intends to lead his Virgin Islands party into the elections as head of the slate.
We now bring you these international reports.
The Mexican president has defended the military operation that captured a drug cartel leader, Ovidio Guzman, the son of jailed drug trafficker El Chapo. Violence erupted in Culiacan, a stronghold of the cartel. At least 19 members of the Sinaloa cartel and 10 members of the military were killed. The arrest comes ahead of a visit by President Biden to Mexico on Sunday. Sylvia Lennon-Spence reports.
The son of the notorious drug lord El Chapo, arrested and taken to the same maximum security prison his father escaped from 8 years ago. Ovidio Guzman is accused of leading a faction of his father's former Sinaloa cartel, one of the largest drug trafficking organizations in the world. The arrest sparked a wave of violence. Dozens were killed, including 10 military personnel. The president of Mexico has defended the operation.
We regret the loss of lives of those who died while carrying out their jobs. We also regret other losses.
Following the arrest, dozens of vehicles were set alight, and at least 2 planes at local airports were hit by gunfire in attacks blamed on the Sinaloa cartel.
These criminal organizations shot with weapons at aircraft from the Mexican Air Force and from commercial airlines, and at the international Culiacan airport facilities. Nevertheless, they did not achieve their goal of rescuing the alleged offender because we neutralized him.
This isn't the first time such violence has been seen. Guzman was first captured in 2019, but Mexican security forces released him to avoid the threat of further retribution from his supporters.
We, of course, have been closely following.
He's been on America's radar for years. with the US State Department previously offering a $5 million reward for information leading to his arrest or conviction. On Sunday, President Biden is due to visit Mexico, but ministers have rejected suggestions by Mexican media that Guzman's capture is in any way a welcoming gift. Sylvia Lennon-Spence, BBC News.
Applause and chants of USA were heard as Republican Kevin McCarthy secured enough votes needed to lead the US House of Representatives early on Saturday, on his 15th try for the Speaker gavel. The final tally was 216 votes for McCarthy. He was able to be elected with the votes of fewer than half the House members.
That was easy, huh?
Only because 6 in his party withheld their votes. That meant not backing McCarthy as a leader, but also not voting for another contender. Speaking to the media afterwards, the 57-year-old Californian credited former President Donald Trump's trust in him for landing him the Speaker role.
But I do want to especially thank President Trump. I don't think anybody should doubt his influence. He was with me from the beginning. Somebody wrote the doubt of whether he was there, and he was all in. He would call me and he would call others. And he really was, I was just talking to him tonight, helping get those final votes. And what he's really saying, really for the party and the country, that we have to come together.
McCarthy suffered one final humiliation when Representative Matt Gaetz withheld his vote on the 14th ballot as midnight approached, prompting a scuffle in which fellow Republican Mike Rogers had to be physically pulled away. McCarthy had to agree to compromises, including a demand from right-wing hardliners that opposed him that a vote could be called at any time to challenge his leadership.
We will work every day to make you proud.
In his inaugural speech, he listed out a wide range of priorities, from cutting spending to immigration to fighting culture war battles. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, in his speech, raised questions about McCarthy's ability to govern his caucus, given his bungled speakership bid.
As we transition from one Congress to the next, from one majority to the next, from a year of accomplishment to a year of ambiguity. The American people, understandably after the events of this week, recognize that the Congress is at a fork in the road.
Iran has hanged 2 men for crimes committed during nationwide protests over the death of Mahsa Amini. The 2 men were found guilty of killing a security officer in November. 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in police custody in September. She'd been detained for violating the country's dress code. Mohammad Marandi is a political analyst and professor at the University of Tehran. He joins us now from Tehran. Good to have you with us. So, how is this going down in Iran? How are most people seeing this execution?
I don't think there's any real sympathy for the 2 men who were executed because they committed a horrific act of violence. They stabbed and beat the young man who was murdered multiple times. They beat his head with a rock. They dragged his body until he ultimately died. So I don't see any. Obviously, there are going to be people who support the 2 hanged men, but I don't think there's any popular support for them in the broader society.
A lot of human rights groups have criticized these kinds of trials. Do you think most people are going to believe that those who are arrested, protesters who are arrested and charged, are getting a fair trial?
Well, we have to be careful about these human rights organizations, which are funded by Western governments or funded by institutions closely affiliated with Western governments. There is footage of these 2 men, and the acts carried out against the person who was murdered, it has been seen widely in Iranian society. I've also put clips of it on my Twitter account for people to see.
But does that apply to
problem
all
is,
of the
though,
cases, Mr. Marandi? Sorry to interrupt you, but we've heard you're right. They are from Western human rights groups, like Amnesty International, quite credible ones. They say these trials bore no resemblance to a meaningful judicial proceeding. They can't see, in some cases, the evidence presented against them. They don't get to choose their lawyer and so on.
Well, Amnesty International, we know, has a history of supporting NATO in Afghanistan, and it is closely affiliated with the political establishment in the United States. I think many in Iran would wonder why Amnesty International is not directing any of its criticism towards the British government, because we have Persian TV stations in London, Iran International, a Saudi channel based in London, that have repeatedly called, that have legitimized and praised beating police officers, burning them alive, and murdering them. And this is something that, if it was done in English, if it was an English channel or a Western language channel based in London, Ofcom would shut them down immediately, and these people would be taken to court and probably put on trial. But in the case of Iran, these Persian media channels like BBC Persian, VOA, Iran International, and other outlets, they are allowed to egg on rioters, to encourage the murder of police officers. And we have to remember that over 60 police officers were murdered during this period. If you compare this to, let's say, the United States, that would be roughly comparing it with, taking into account that the population of the United States is 4 times greater than Iran. That would mean like 250, 60 police officers in the United States being killed by rioters. So I think if we look at things in this sort of context, then it would be far more complicated than what these Western human rights organizations are saying.
We know that there's been a new head of police been appointed. What do you think the appointment of Ahmed Reza Radan, what does that say or indicate about the intentions of authorities and how they deal with protests?
I don't think it makes a significant difference. The previous head of police in Iran, his period to govern the police has come to an end. So it was expected that he would be replaced by someone else. And Mr. Radan is someone who's been in the police, active in the police in the past, in high-ranking positions for a very long time. So he's very well acquainted with the work that he does. The point is, though, that in the case of Iran, we have the police have to deal not only with protesters or rioters, because in reality, the protests were only the first couple of days. After that, it was riots, and they were extremely violent. Not only do they have to deal with rioters, but they have to deal with terrorist organizations based in northern Iraq, supported by Western governments, separatist groups, in Baluchistan, Pakistan, that are also funded by these governments, and also the MEK, the Mujahideen Hal terrorist organization, which is based in Europe and has a major base in Albania, who they themselves admit that they're involved in the riots. Right. The MEK fought for Saddam Hussein. For Iran, great deal of Western influence in the violence that we had weeks ago.
You were listening to the WinFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were: a person in custody after firearm and ammunition found following vehicle search on Nevis. BVI Premier Dr. Natalia Wheatley says there will be no early elections. A Turks and Caicos police officer was charged with harboring undocumented migrants. Internationally, at least 29 people were killed during the bloody operation to arrest the son of Mexican drugs kingpin El Chapo, the Mexican authorities say. Meanwhile, in the U.S., Kevin McCarthy was elected Speaker of the House after 15 rounds of voting and making extensive concessions to a group of right-wing headliners, raising questions about the Republican Party's ability to govern. Thank you for listening.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Found the South 98.9 FM. People make the world go
Buying your medication is easy with City Drugstore's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drug Stores curbside pickup service.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News right here on WinFM 98.9. It is Saturday, January 7th, 2023. It is 12:36 here in the studios of WinFM 98.9, and you're listening to Inside the News. The phone lines are open, and we're taking your calls at 466-0989 or 762-0989. In the first hour, we had an interview. There was an interview being played with the former Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, and Jamila McPhail of Freedom FM. The former Prime Minister, Dr. Harris, spoke on a number of things that took place in his administration, a number of plans and programs and initiatives, addressed a number of allegations that came to him, or a number of allegations that were made throughout the campaign trail.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust. To secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind.
You're always safe with us.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WinFM 98.9. We'll be taking your calls, your comments, your views on the Prime Minister's response to some of the allegations leveled at him. Let's go to the phone lines. We'll take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Greetings. Thanks for taking our call.
All right.
The first thing we wish to do is to extend a blessed Christmas to Ethiopians at home and abroad, 7th of January, according to the Ethiopian calendar. Thank you for sharing the interview with the former Honorable Prime Minister. And we'd like to just wish him and his household all the best for 23 and beyond. And all the others, the present Honorable Prime Minister and others who are part of the present administration. We had asked you to re-hear the utterance by the present Attorney General concerning the ganja smoking outdoors. We are humbly giving you a memo on that. We'll please do so as soon as time permits. Thank you very much in advance, and all the best for 2023 to you and the family.
All right, caller, thank you for your contribution, and all the best to you and your family as well. The phone lines are open, and we're taking your calls here on WinFM 98.9 for another edition of Inside the News. It is Saturday, January 7th, 2023, and 12:41 is the time I have on the clock here. The interview, the former Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, responded to a number of allegations leveled at him. You would recall that throughout his tenure as Prime Minister, and more so leading up to the August 2022 general elections, there was a lot being said and a lot was happening. Let's head back to the phone lines. We'll take some more calls. Caller, you are on the air. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Devon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Yes, very good. It was an interesting interview conducted by Miss McPhail, I think it was.
Yes.
Yes, I think she did ask some very relevant and very probing questions of the Prime Minister. My only criticism is that she did not follow up on some of the questions she asked, because a lot of the answers could have been challenged, okay? Because what I saw there was, or heard there, was an attempt to essentially revise history and exaggerate his achievements. No doubt he's thinking in terms of his legacy, which in my opinion is very much mixed and more bad than good, I think. In some cases, I think he was downright evasive, as, for instance, when he conveniently refused to be drawn into the Innotech contracts. Okay, you recall that, I'm sure. Then there was the claim about the CBI. First off, he entered office meeting recommendations to improve the CBI from consultants recruited by his predecessor. I remember them saying that these recommendations by the consultants were approved and were pretty all implemented. So for him to claim to have brought the program to platinum standard is certainly disingenuous at best. You know, I know it's difficult to give his nemesis some credit, but, you know, I don't think it all belongs to Team Unity. And then, of course, we know that the FinCEN's and advisory has not been lifted as far as I know, and the visa-free access to Canada has not been restored. In fact, during the tenure of the ex-Prime Minister, the EU increased pressure on our program, okay, giving us, they kept moving the goalposts, and even now we're on the threat of sanctions, I think in 2025 or something like that, if we don't institute certain measures that are to their liking. Mm-hmm. So, all in all, I don't think it's true to claim that they are the savior of our CBI at all. I also find it hard to believe that he was unaware of the reports of underselling of passports, because these were things that were, I mean, throughout the 7 years, you were hearing about. You may say that, well, he probably heard about them, but because the money kept coming in, did very little to deal with the underlying issues, okay? And it's also incorrect to claim, because the government continues with programs like the prison project, that proves there was nothing wrong with it. No, that's not true. Whatever happened to government is continuous. An incoming government can't just tear up signed contracts without consequences. Mm-hmm. It's far better, I think, to renegotiate a better deal for the country. All right? And when we look at the past government signature projects like the PAP and the Peace and the STEP, the hurricane relief, those kinds of projects, it's clear that the government then did not have the necessary administrative infrastructure in place so as to run these programs efficiently. Okay? And so we're not surprised that these programs became beset with mismanagement and corruption. You notice that he accepted no responsibility at all for the demise of Unity and for his humiliating defeat at the last general election. I thought that was interesting and definitely appeared a bit narcissistic, you know, because basically he's saying it was all somebody else's fault. Mm-hmm. He had nothing to do with it. Well, he did not accept any responsibility at all. And it's also interesting how he measures success as the number of times he was able to win elections and how he was able to straddle parties basically by subterfuge and betrayal and trickery and conniving. That's certainly no role model for any upcoming politician, right? And it's like I always said, he is an astute politician, even now, but he is terribly divisive and a very cynical leader, okay? And I think what we need right now is a good leader. Don't need another smart politician, okay, to restore the country to good health. I think he brought a brand of politics that did not serve the country well, and certainly his leadership was not of the high caliber, the competent, the committed, trustworthy, and incorruptible leadership that we had become accustomed to over the years, right? I think his was a retrograde step, and it's probably a good thing that it's over, and I hope that going forward in the future that we do not come across this type of leadership again. You were going to ask something?
Mm-hmm. Well, I was saying with regards to the comment about the whole mashing up of Team Unity, I always took the view that what happened there, all of them should be blamed for it. I realize that some people are trying to remove themselves from what happened in Team Unity. As far as I am concerned, as long as you were a member of of Team Unity, you are responsible for its demise.
Of course.
Whether you are a leader or
absolute
member.
responsibility. It was a circular firing squad. All of them basically pointed fingers at each other, and all of them had some measure of culpability in what took place. And it was a good thing that the electorate recognized this and said, no more of that. Okay, we're not going through this charade anymore, and did, I think, what was the right thing and made sure that they gave the Labour Party an overwhelming show of support so that we didn't have to endure these kinds of what shall we call them, convenient marriages or machinations in forming coalitions. And I think the country needed this, at least this period of respite from those things. You know? I think it was a good thing. Okay. Well, have a great day.
All right, you too, caller. Thank you so much for your contribution to this program. You're listening to Inside the News here on WinFM 98.9. The phone lines are open, and we are taking your calls at 466-0989 or 762-0989. Yeah, so caller, I was making the point that the issues that Team Unity faced is not just one person. I don't think anybody should try to remove themselves from it. All of them were part of it, so they all have to take responsibility. Let's head back to the phone lines. We'll take this call. Hey, caller, you are on the air. Good afternoon.
Yes, good day to you, Devon. Greetings once again in Jesus' name, the only Savior of His chosen sinners, from their sins and from hell, and second person of the eternal Trinity. Now, again, as I listen to your interview, it brings to mind again, continually, that the reason that we are having all of these problems is because of our disobedience to the Bible as a people. Now, it has been truly said, disobeying the Bible is the most expensive thing in all of God's creation. And that is why we have such increasing poverty, that is why we have such a high rate of poverty, increasing inflation, or increasing in this cost of living. That is why we have an increase in national debt and that sort of stuff, all because of disobedience to the word of God, which is the most expensive thing in all of God's creation. And if you, for example, take, poverty. The reason why it is such a problem and such a huge problem, like I say, is because of disobedience to the word of God, which is the most expensive thing in all of God's creation. Such thing as pap and that sort of stuff goes against what the Bible teaches for the God-given functions and duties of government. You want to decrease poverty, you want to increase the standard of living, You want to decrease inflation? One of the number of ways to go is to increase the purchasing power. This is the teaching of the Bible. To increase the purchasing power of your money. Well, in our case, of the dollar. Increasing the purchasing power of the dollar. You would have to do such things as the Bible teaches, at least at minimum, continually be decreasing taxes, and the Bible ideal is for the whole taxation system to be voluntary completely. So at least decreasing it and to that point. Also privatizing the things that government ought not to be involved in according to the Bible. This decrease government spending and expenses. Having a true free market capitalist economic system. All of these is what the Bible instructs us to do and to have. And these things diminishes and minimizes, if not completely eliminating, poverty altogether. But because we are not doing things the Bible way, but actually going against the Bible based upon the opinions of the experts and that sort of stuff, that is why we have such a huge problem with poverty, increasing the cost of living and that sort of stuff. So it doesn't matter what unbiblical program government come up with. If we do not do things according to the Bible, we will not be solving our problems. Rather, we will be making them worse and worse to our destruction and ruin. And this is the road that we are going down in our disobedience to the Bible, which is the most expensive thing in all of God's creation. So as I listen to the interview, all of these things just come back to mind, how we have strayed far away from the Bible and just making things worse and worse for ourselves. And the true answers we are ignoring and rejecting, which are only found in the Bible. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Carter, for your contribution to this program. We'll take a short break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue Inside the News right here on WinFM 98.9. Let's take this break, and I'll be right back.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round.
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Thank you so much for joining the conversation. It is just 3 minutes before the 1 o'clock hour here in our studios for today. Thank you so much for joining the program. The phone lines are open and we're taking your calls at 466-0989 or 762-0989. That is 466-0989 or 762-0989. For those of you who tuned in late, I was playing an interview with the former Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, responding to a number of allegations, leveled at him and the former Team Unity administration. You will recall that leading up to the August 2022 National Assembly elections, there were a number of allegations being thrown at that administration, the former administration, about a number of programs. You would recall the prison project. Former Deputy Prime Minister Sean Richards and former Foreign Affairs Minister Matt Brantley, they came out against that as well. So it was a lot of controversy, a lot of confusion, to be quite frank. And Dr. Harris used the opportunity to respond to some of those. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, you are on the air. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Devon. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, thanks. And yourself?
I know you're giving God thanks. Great to be alive on a day like today, you know. Great to be alive. You know, the many who have gone. And I'm good. Happy New Year, Mr. McMahon. I was wondering what had become of him, you know. Now, I want to thank you for playing the interview, because I wasn't sure that I had heard the entire one. And it is open for discussion. Quite interesting, you know. But this thing of negating other people's accomplishment backfires, eh? When you have people saying, no, nothing for 7 years, that's ridiculous. You got to be blind not to see. Whether it was Labour or Unity. But when people consistently insinuate that for 7 straight years nothing happened, it makes you question their integrity. Now, I want an answer from maybe Mr. McMahon. This accusation about the writing off of the 130 million, I would like to get a response. Because to me it is important, eh? I have shares in National. I know what National went through when we had the recession. The amount of millions that National lost because they got a haircut. So did Social Security. So I want to know who exactly gave them the write-off. Was it the former government or is it this present one? And under what condition was it done? We want to know. I want to know. I seriously want to know, because I did not get to go to the AG. Did you have any idea? Somebody was telling me that 300 million loss. Was that true?
300 million what, sorry?
Loss.
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Try and see if you get another copy, because somebody was telling me, you know, that they had lost it on the stock market.
All right.
Kind of the market had practically kind of crashed more than once. So I want to know, and are they giving any dividends? Do you know anything about that?
Who giving dividends?
Talking about National Bank.
Oh, no, I'm not sure.
Because I have some shares in there. Now, the auditor's report, have you gotten your hand on one yet? Oh, I heard somebody saying that they're online, you know. They're on the Department, Ministry of Finance, MOF.
All right, I'll definitely check it out.
What I want to know, in the auditor's report, you usually have a graph showing you, so you can see if there was ever any surplus or deficit. So could you please check it for me? Could you promise that?
I'll check it out. Yes, I'll check it out.
Yeah, because everybody making accusation, but what they leave and what they leave, who had deficit and who ain't had deficit. Is the auditor's report you go to? Because anybody could say anything. So why you do some research for me? Maybe for Monday, just go online and look and see. You're smart enough to read the graph. They have graphs. I heard somebody on Freedom yesterday they were reading the overspending items which they give, where they underspend, where they overspend. But I did not hear them refer to was it a surplus year. You could tell by the graph, eh? For those who could read graph, if the bar is below the horizontal line, it is a deficit. Above, no matter how small, is a surplus. So I want to know those items because everybody politicking and nobody economic. Nobody talking economics. And in terms of Mr. McMahon said that they could not cancel the contract. That is interesting. So are we going to see the solar farm? Because the contract I heard was signed. Was it signed?
I'm not sure.
Huh?
I am not sure. I'm not privy to that.
Because I heard Mr. Ashton calling for it to be cancelled and whatever. And what about the contract for the Basti High School? Have they been able to cancel it?
I know some work has, let me say, recommenced at the Bastia High School, but I haven't gotten any information as it relates to the actual contract.
Some work has what?
At the school, they've been doing some work there at the school already, but I don't know the status
no, I mean
of
the
the
one
contract.
over on the aquifers, let us say.
Oh, not there, no, nothing is happening there.
No, I'm not talking about the contract. Because I think I hear the AG said that the person is still sending in their
invoices,
vouchers, the manager, whatever. So we want to know what contracts that were signed before that they are still keeping and what they have gotten rid of, because the excuse given for the continuance of the building of the prison is that it is difficult for governments to cancel contract. That's what Mr. McMahon just said. So, Mr. McMahon, maybe you could enlighten me. Could you tell me and tell us how many of the contracts signed by Timothy Harris administration you all have cancelled and those that you have kept? All right, then. Let me send advance birthday greeting to Monique Pemberton, a member of the Association of Persons with Disability. Her birthday is tomorrow. When I used to go down, she used to come every morning to meet me and take me down to meet the bus. And Monique, I appreciate it. I hear they go back to work on Monday. So to all the members of the association, those at the Cotton Thomas, those up at Addis Place, wherever you are, those in Nevis at the special home, not home, the school. May 2023 be a new year. We have a new minister who pledged to do her best for people with disability, and we are looking forward. I am looking forward to it because I want to go back, but I will go back only when something substantial is happening. We have been neglected for too long. And so for the people with disabilities and the elderly, we are looking forward to a more prosperous 2023. God bless you.
All right, caller, thank you for your contribution to this program. You're listening to Inside the News here on 1FM 98.9. The phone lines are open and we're taking your calls at 466-0989 or 762-0989. As I was saying, caller, I'm not sure the status of the contract for the Barrister High School where there were plans to build it there by the aquifer. I'm not certain, or I don't have any information as it relates to the status of that contract. But I'll have to definitely find out about that. It is 7 minutes past the hour, and we're heading back to the phone lines. We'll take some more calls. A caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, Devon, it's me again. I want to clarify something that I said in my last call that people don't misunderstand. If a person can do better without taking any government handouts or going on any government unbiblical programs or taking any government handouts, if they can do better by not taking or participating in them, then they ought to do so. But if because of poverty and the sort of stuff that person may find themselves in, because of things ain't going the biblical way in the federation, in the operation of governments and that sort of stuff, and you find yourself in a situation where you need it, so to speak, then use it, take advantage of it. Government programs handle that sort of stuff. Take advantage of it if you cannot do better. But whether you could do better or cannot do better, do everything you can to change our system to a biblical one, where these things will not be needed and where the poorest among us is able to afford what it takes to live without any government help and that sort of stuff. Work to change the system to a biblical one. And I just like to say, to go in a little bit detail, for example, where government programs are concerned and handles are concerned, when government gives people money, it isn't the result of more goods and services coming on stream in the economy. It is the result of government distributing additional to them. And so what happened, because you do not have the extra services and extra goods coming unseen, you now have more money chasing after the same amount of goods and the same amount of services, because people get extra money from government. And what that does in the end, it carries up the cost of living, supply and demand kick in. You have an increase in demand, but you do not have an increase in supply. In other words, you have an increase in people having more money, but you do not have an increase in services and goods. And so because you have more money now, chasing after the same amount of goods and services, that causes the price to rise. Well, that is one of the reasons. It is not all, but that is one of the big reasons that causes the prices of services and goods to rise, and thus cause the cost of living to increase and the standard of living to decrease. So that's just one of the ways I'm showing you how when we disobey the Bible and go against the Bible, we just make things worse for ourselves, which we are doing. And we just go down the road to destruction, increasing poverty, making poverty to be a problem and all other problems to be big problems, when they could be minimized, if not eliminated altogether, if we just do what the Bible says. So I just wanted to say this. This, for example, may God be with us and may God help us. And I would like to let everybody know, you die without Christ, you're going to end up in hell for all eternity. Thank you.
All right, thank you, caller, for your contribution to this program. Let's take a quick break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue Inside the News right here on WinFM 98.9. Again, the numbers to call are 466-0989 or 762-0989. Let's take this break, and I'll be right back.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drug Store's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drug Store's curbside pickup service.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, you're on the air. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon again, Devon.
Yes.
I'm sorry to disappoint Mrs. Henry, but I'm just an ordinary citizen like her. Don't have any insider information. But I do think that according to I think it might have been the auditor's report, there was a 118 million surplus in 2021. Okay? I think that was it. But that in itself is an issue. I mean, in this age of technology, we really should be more up to date on the exact state of the economy, the financial figures, if not on a monthly basis, or certainly on a quarterly basis. Okay, so we have a real-time idea of what's happening. Okay, waiting for an auditor report, which was from a year ago, I don't think is good enough. It does not give us enough information to make pronouncements on. With regards to the contracts, wasn't that I was saying that governments can't break contracts? I said that they can do so, but with consequences. All right? They would have to make a decision as to whether getting out of a contract is worth the cost of doing so. Right? They have to weigh all things, weigh all their options in order to do that. Right? And like Mrs. Henry, there are a number of questions that I myself would like answered. Okay, all of us would like answered, because I think now one of the good things about the last couple of years is that I think people are now less likely to just take things for granted. They want to know that their taxes are being routed correctly, they're getting value for money, that the leadership is, well, certainly competent, and also that there is good governance. All right, these are watchwords that have emerged over the years, and I don't think that governments now or in the future will be able to just get away with doing as they like, when they like, how they like anymore. Okay, I think that's a good thing, and so even though we don't yet have all the answers, we're hoping that the freedom of information and other good government systems that are supposed to be introduced will take care of those things in the future. Okay, so there's hope, Mrs. Henry. You'll have your answers if, according to our Attorney General, he'll be acting on these things soonest, then you won't have to be in the dark anymore. All right, then.
All right, caller, thank you for your contribution to this program. It is 20 minutes past the 1 o'clock hour here in the studios of 1FM 98.9, and you're listening to Inside the News. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Let's head back to the phone lines and we'll take some more calls. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, thank you, Mr. McMahon. Now, in relation to the auditor's report, the financial year for the government of St. Kitts and Nevis is from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. Therefore, it will not be possible unless the year is changed. You know, in some countries, the financial year starts in April. Some countries. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think Antigua, some Grenada, some of them is even halfway Jamaica. I don't think many of them have it in December. So that when the budget is given, the financial year is not complete, so the auditors cannot give a report. Government's revenue is not like civil servants' wages. It varies from month to month. And sometimes what they collect in 1 month are actually arrears. Because they deal on a cash basis. I recall when I went to the IMF, they were showing us how to do the accounts so that if something is not paid, it goes as payment due. So in 1 month, and even with the the registration of vehicles. In some months, they would collect more than some. And so if they were to give you in December, what happened to the rest of the month? So while it sounds good, unless the financial year is changed, and always bear in mind that government, the Treasury does its business on a cash business. Not like companies that have debt payable and accounts payable. So that is it. Now, school reopens on Monday, right? I know there used to be a service where the children and the teachers attend there prayed for. Have you heard of any?
I think it happens on the first day of school.
But no, they used to go to I know they used to go to a church.
Right, so I'm telling you, I think it happens on the first day of school.
You mean
so they would go to church in the morning, maybe 8:30 or 9, and then they head to school.
Oh,
I stand to
in
be
Nevis?
corrected, but I think that's how they used to do it. I think
In Nevis? I stop teacher long, I don't pay attention. But that's a good idea because our children, and another thing, I was listening to something from Jamaica, and they were suggesting that given the mental strain that COVID has put on the children, that it might be a good idea to have in each primary school a guidance counselor. You know they have them in high schools. And even where they have them in high schools, there is a need for more. So we need to be thinking about it because some children would have lost their parents. Now, another thing that came up yesterday that disturbed me. It was said by one of the panelists on another station. He confirmed that there are 3 viruses going around: COVID, influenza, and the one with the respiratory thing, right? When queried about what are the numbers like for COVID, because COVID is here. Oh, numbers don't matter. Now, if I have heard one of our church members, it was claimed that she caught COVID in the hospital and died. The allegation, eh? Another lady called and said she took her elderly mother to the A&E, and she caught COVID. Well, the person said he doesn't believe it. Now, what is so hard? If COVID is now endemic, we call it endemic, right? Shouldn't we be getting some updates on it? Because I have said before, many people who think they just have flu have COVID, walking around, they won't even put on a mask. So at least say, look, take your vitamins and put on a mask if you're thinking, because people are under the have a little cold, up and down, coughing down the place. Another person even called in and said that they are mixing the patients on the wards, the people with the cold and whatever. I mean, encourage people to put on the mask. Oh, we just got to learn to live with it. What exactly does live with it mean? So we have to learn to die with it then. I mean, we got to be more responsible. Saying, oh, we got to live with it. What exactly does we got to live with it mean? I only know I don't want nobody give me COVID. And those of you, if you know you got a cold and a cough, and you're going out, walk on your mask, put on the mask. Because I have no idea. Devon, you know what live with it mean? What exactly does live with it mean?
Sorry, tell me.
What exactly does you got to learn to live with COVID means? What does it mean?
Sorry, Carla, I'm not hearing you clearly. Could you repeat that?
What exactly does We have to learn to live with COVID. What does that mean? How is it practical?
I don't even, I can't answer that.
No, because if COVID is alive and well here, because some people are under the impression that COVID has gone. So I'm advising people, please, to use your mask. All right then. But find out for me what exactly does it mean. If we got to learn to live with, do we have to learn to die with it? All right.
All right, caller, thank you for your contribution to this program. I think, well, I would say that you can give it your own meaning. What does it mean when you say we have to learn to live with COVID? You give it your own meaning. However you want to live with it. If you feel that you want to wear a mask for the rest of your life, then that's your business. That's a matter for you. If you don't want to do it, that's a matter for you. Let's take this final call. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. Right, so I don't think he has a meaning for everyone. Well, a meaning that everyone has to adhere to, but I guess you can give it your own meaning. Let's take this caller. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yeah, Devon, it's me again. I would like to say something on the COVID.
Yes, quickly because we're soon out of time.
Hello?
Yeah, quickly because we're soon out of time.
Yes. Okay, no problem. The best studies on COVID have shown that mask is ineffective against COVID, and not just against COVID, but against all respiratory diseases. The mask is ineffective against them. That's according to more studies and the best studies. Now also, I didn't read the article a lot, but the headline and so is what had caught my attention. An article came out from a source that I trust a lot. And the article said that there has been a peer-reviewed study that shows the COVID itself is not really more dangerous than the flu. It's on the same level as the flu. But despite the hype and that sort of stuff, it's really no worse than the flu, according to a peer-reviewed study that not so long ago came out. And you see, where the COVID is concerned, really and truly, a lot of the reported deaths are to be questioned. Not only that, if people without jurisdiction, because all the treatments and so are prohibited in hospitals and that sort of stuff, and that's conduct, which do really work. All of that contributed to COVID deaths and that sort of stuff. But COVID could have ended long ago if proper early treatment were used by hospital and medical authorities instead of scorning them, because research have shown that they're very effective. And what is also being shown, and I'm going to say that, what also being shown is that the different vaccines for the COVID is killing a lot of people the world over, and a lot of countries are having excess mortality. And all indications are it is pointing to the COVID vaccines that are killing a lot of people. And I believe we in St. Kitts are also feeling the negative effects of the COVID vaccines in deaths and that sort of stuff. Thank you.
All right, caller, thank you for your contribution to this program. This has brought us to the end of Inside the News here on 1FM 98.9 for Saturday, January 7th, 2023. On behalf of all of us here at 1FM, enjoy the rest of your week, and you guys take care. See you on Monday.